Alright guys, it's time for an emergency meeting because Black Ops 6 comes out in a couple of days and side easter egg steps for Terminus and Liberty Falls have started to leak out for zombies. Plus there's also some other good updates too from Treyarch themselves. I actually warned you guys about this person, Alex, about 6 weeks ago on this channel when they were going around teasing that they would do this exact thing. But despite literally everyone telling him not to start leaking stuff because we've waited 4 years for a real Treyarch zombies hunt, he decided to do it anyway. I'm not going to show you guys what the steps are, but a few of them are really obviously related to side easter eggs you would expect to see in a new map. If you think back on stuff like Firebase Z from Cold War and what those quests gave you, then you would know what type of stuff that I'm talking about here. For right now, we know that the main quest steps aren't going to be posted, but that's only because he decided to taunt the people that were annoyed at him by saying, by the way, to everyone in my mentions with 2 brain cells, I'm not going to post anything related to the main quest, it's just side stuff you can breathe. Which basically to me means that he finds this all super funny that we're upset about this, and that he also knows all of the main quest steps for the launch maps. Even in the middle of writing the script for this video, he's still posting leaks to Twitter. Like I said in my original video, it doesn't seem like Alex is just grabbing these things from the files like the most generic leakers that you see on Twitter. The more likely answer is that he has had Black Ops 6 on his computer for months so he's able to access the full game and the files, or he actually knows someone who works in Treyarch / Activision who is giving him all of this stuff so that he can leak it. Either option is pretty pathetic honestly, because both of them involve 2 different people making the conscious decision to ruin things that the zombies community is hyped for. Because honestly, that's half the magic of launch day, is everyone coming together to solve puzzles, and seemingly every 5 minutes something new is getting revealed. Some people might forget about it now, but even during Cold War when the coffin dance easter egg was found on D Machine, everyone was so unbelievably hyped. People wouldn't have been nearly as hyped if the whole thing was leaked a few days beforehand and all we had to do was watch it at the end. If Treyarch and Activision leave stuff in their publicly available files for people to look through and it gets leaked, then whatever, that's really their problem, they're just being a dumb company. When it's a situation like this where it's clearly not public yet and you decide to tweet out parts of at least 4 different side quests, then you're just being a douchebag who's way too desperate for Twitter clout. Which, don't get me wrong here, Activision has done a terrible job over the last few years of preventing leaks. The first ever leaks we got for Black Ops 6 were from a playtest for Warzone Mobile where some concept arts were left in those files, and that happened like 3 years ago. Pretty much everything that gets added to Warzone gets leaked way ahead of time. Even for the rest of Black Ops 6, the full campaign cutscenes were found in the beta files with no audio attached to them. Then a few days ago, there was an even bigger leak for campaign, which is also something you should really avoid if you're excited for that part of the game. My point is that Activision sucks at this stuff, but this time it wasn't even their fault, which is kind of annoying honestly. If some developer is anonymously sending this dude everything, then first of all, that developer is an asshole. And secondly, there's no way to prevent it other than them leaving the company. You can't really link back some text to any of the thousands of employees who work on these games at any given time. And what happens if he actually does decide to turn around in 6 hours and start actually leaking steps for the main quest? Nothing is really stopping him because clearly he doesn't actually seem to give a shit if his cloud chasing gets in the way of anyone's enjoyment of these games. We basically have to trust him that he's not going to do it, which honestly I don't trust him. Even other leakers are calling him out for this because no matter what excuse he comes up with, it's just him being an asshole. Leaking an Easter egg is not the same thing as some new bundle for Warzone or a returning game mode for multiplayer. Zombies fans don't get constant updates, so we try to enjoy the few days when things are new for us. My best advice to anyone not wanting to get any of this spoiled is just to stay off Twitter. Most YouTubers aren't complete assholes and won't spoil anything before launch date, but it's really not a guarantee, especially because there's a lot of people who want to make a lot of money in the next couple of weeks. I also know that some of you guys are thinking, well, why don't you just report Alex and maybe he'll get suspended on Twitter? The problem with that is that he hasn't actually done anything that Activision could take his account down for. He's just posting some text and people are linking it to Black Ops 6. If he was to post some of the game strings or any of the screenshots from the game itself, then maybe they could do that, or they could go back and look at his other stuff and maybe they could take that down, but I don't really think they'd be successful at removing him entirely from Twitter. Plus that might also just piss him off and he might just start posting stuff that we really don't want to see. So we're all kind of in a situation where we can't really stop this guy from doing anything, but we also don't want to see the stuff that he's posting, so the best thing that you can do is really just avoid him at all costs. I should also point out that there is a possibility that this whole thing is a troll from him, because obviously we don't know how true any of this is yet. In 4 days we could all be laughing because it was all a bait and we're so stupid. But I do think that this is real because of the way that he's replying to other people, plus the way that some of the posts are structured in a manner that does sound real enough to me. One of them in particular was way too specific for it not to be real in my opinion, and like I said, it does line up with the way that other Easter eggs have kind of come out for maps. He isn't really a zombie specific leaker, so it would require a decent amount of knowledge overall for zombies to do stuff like this if it was fake. In other news though, Treyarch actually did confirm something which is really good, and that's that the main quests are going to be locked until 1 PM Eastern time on October 25th, which means 13 hours after launch on the East Coast and 18 hours after launch in the United Kingdom. Personally, I'm glad to see this because everyone has time to get prepared for it that way. I actually really like this because I've always found that in years past, if you're someone who used a New Zealand account and you're like living in the United States or the United Kingdom, but you get the game 14 hours early, then it was kind of unfair because you basically just got a huge start on people for the Easter egg. With it being time gated though, it gives people a chance to actually learn the game a little bit and get a couple of matches in and get their feet wet, and then actually get prepared for a couple of hours until we can actually start playing the main quest. I love this way so much more, thank you Treyarch. And a little side note that most people did not notice under their post was one saying that the Wonder Fizz will not appear in maps until round 25. This is an amazing change and I love it so much. Part of the complaints that I've seen about modern zombies over the last few years is that it's too easy because you can find the Wonder Fizz on round 6 and then buy any of the perks that you want. The actual machines are kind of pointless in the early game, but with the Wonder Fizz now not appearing until round 25, this is going to change people's approach to these maps a little bit and hopefully make the early game a little bit more difficult. This will probably have the biggest effect on the first couple of days of the game, and especially the main quest hunts, since you can't just fully kit out of the Wonder Fizz again every time that you go down. Obviously this doesn't really change anything for high rounds because you'll probably still be able to spam the Wonder Fizz and get your perks back on round 95, 100, 200, 300, whatever it ends up being, but it is still good for early game, and that's what a lot of people have been complaining about, is that the early game doesn't feel much different to the late game. This is what I've been saying all along about Black Ops 6, is that Treyarch seems to just be listening and taking these small little steps in the right direction to make zombies better again, because they listened to us for Liberty Falls and changed the atmosphere a little bit. They've changed the Wonder Fizz. They've done a lot of stuff in general that just seems like, hey, you know what? We're going to listen to you guys a little bit, we'll go in your direction, and I appreciate that so much. Like I said, hugely underrated update by Treyarch that more people haven't mentioned and will help the gameplay loop a lot on both of these maps. It's probably going to be a bigger effect on Terminus because it's such a bigger map and the perk machines are probably much more spread out, where on Liberty Falls it might not matter as much. But I think that'll do it for me. We're really close to 6,000 subs, so if you want to help me out, then that would be absolutely great and I would super appreciate it. Also, I'm going to be uploading a video on my main channel kind of explaining the big hiatus from that. There's a lot into it and I just want to do all that. I'm probably going to do that tomorrow or the next day, but it's going to be before Black Ops 6. Like I said, thank you for watching. Love you. Bye-bye.